Hello and welcome to Weirdo Award 2024. Last year, I started this silly little award show to see what I personally thought was the best game of 2023. And this year, I want to do the same, but for 2024 and years prior. Yes, we have 3 awards to give this year as well. Best Game 2024, straightforward. Best Game None 2024, basically a game I played in 2024 that came out years prior. And Best Overall Game 2024, where every single game I played last year is on the table. And like last time, we'll make it spicy that only one game can win one award. So no 2 games can win 2 or 3 awards. I have also invited some guests to display what they believe their game of the year is as well. Cause why not? And finally, the same old house rules. 1. No fan games. That's a slippery slope I don't want to get into. 2. No early access games. However, if the game gets out of early access and becomes a full release, I will consider the game as this year's release date. And 3. I have not played all the games. There's games like Elden Ring DLC and Astro Boy I haven't played. This video is already long as it is, and I had played so many games last year that some of the games are gonna be missed. Please understand. And also understand that this is my opinion. This whole show, this funny, silly little award show I'm doing, it's just my opinion. Yes, there are guest appearances, and those guests has their own opinion, what they thought is their game of the year. But everything else, every game that I'm going to talk about, that you will hear from my voice, is my opinion only. So don't take it as an absolute fact. Just enjoy the ride and maybe bash on my opinions if need be. Respectfully, of course. With that said, let's start off with this game. I think it's no surprise that I really like roguelike games. Something about trying again and again and again feels so satisfying that enemies that give you a hard time in the beginning is now a calculated dodge and attack to victory. And this game is no exception. You start off with one character, any characters you wanna dabble into, apart from the DLC, aka Vampire Girl, Rachel Alucard. Hi, Future Maxim here. So as I was editing this video, 2 new characters actually got announced and released on the 21st of January. Icy, which is a crossover character, and Hazama, which is a DLC character. So Icy, you can basically get it for free by doing some system fragmentation minigames they have in the event. And Hazama, you have to, microtransaction, buy a DLC, all yada yada yada. These 2 characters are fun. I tried it, but yeah, 2 new characters got announced. I just wanted to put this in the video. Moving on, and I am immensely impressed how varied each character's fighting style are. Of course, that's no surprise because the IP is originally a fighting game and we already know how varied each fighter can be. But to convert that into new gameplay, yet alone a roguelike? That's impressive. What's more is that they added so many attacks and abilities for each characters. You won't be able to unlock all the abilities in every run, at least most of the time. But having the option to do combos, gain iframes, and just do whatever this is, I want more. But don't be fooled, the gameplay is still difficult to adapt. It is a roguelike after all. There's hazards to consider, enemy attack, platforming, and all that jazz. Look, I won't be able to do justice explaining why the game is difficult. So trust me when I say this, it is difficult until you understand how to counter each enemy. I understand it now. Ah! 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 What I really love about this game is elemental support. See, you can have the typical elements to help you and whatnot. Attacking suits elementals, doing special creates AoE blade, you get the idea. What makes this amazing is combining elements and your BlazBlue character assistants. When you die, your character's data is saved in a data hex of sort. And in those data hex, you can basically pick which elements you want to bring to the next run as an assistant. So you can select your dead character abilities as your side assistant abilities twice. You won't be able to pick the same character twice or even 3 times, but having 2 characters' abilities ready to destroy your foes in a wombo combo is so cool. And like I mentioned, you can use certain amount of abilities gained from your dead run to the new run with that character and your new running playable character. And yes, even the side characters get their own elemental buffs before and or during your run. And you can also combine certain elements together once you reach a certain criteria, making it more powerful and making the game more interesting. Finding which can work with what, finding your elements and destroying your foes with your characters. Man, this is such a great game. So, yeah, I really like this game. It's fun, it's smooth, it's fluid, it's just so riveting. And I have only talked about the gameplay. The presentation is what you see, what you got, which isn't anything bad. In fact, I really like this choice. It's fast, precise, and shows just enough to know what's going on. Maybe having some sort of indicator for where the enemies are, like a mini-map, would be nice, but I digress. With that said, I do have complaints. The story mode is actually annoying to root, especially if you're trying to get the best ending. In your first run, you won't get it, which is perfectly understandable. But instead of going back to the point of no return, they instead give you the New Game Plus option. Well, you have unlocked every card, every characters, yada yada yada, but every puzzle piece and the story progression for it, they have been resetted to 0. And that's annoying. And I'll be honest, getting the true ending is such a pain. No, seriously, I had to check the walkthrough in my second playthrough just to understand how to get it. And even then, it's so confusing that I still haven't gotten the ending. I wish they implemented the story a bit better, because the story itself is pretty nice and entertaining to watch it unfold. It's just getting the progress resetted sucks. 2 more things. Why I'm amazed with varied attacking abilities, it is inputted like a fighting game. Hi, Future Maxim here. So I was playing the game again just so that I could refresh my mind, write the script accurately, etc, etc. I need to know, am I wrong here? Because yes, the game inputs are still complicated. Down B, up, down B, yada yada. But I remember there was things like quarterback circle or full circle and everything. And now when I played it again, it's not a thing. So am I misremembering it now? Or did I just get really unlucky and not see it during my gameplay while refreshing my memory? Please let me know if you have played the game. Otherwise, let's continue. Personally, I like it because BlazBlue is a fighting game. So having that vibe makes sense. Just be ready to learn these inputs if you wanna get into the game. And finally, the music, while great, is not my cup of tea. With that said, the game is still being updated and they have 2025 roadmap that has been planned. So I'm very excited to see where things are gonna be going from here. But overall, if you want something roguelike, want a fighting game but not really, and have varied of characters as your option, yeah, BlazBlue Entropy Effect might just be your jam. Alright, we talked about more of a futuristic fantasy stuff, so let's go more grounded, more realistic, more mystery. No Case Remained Unsolved was my first mystery detective game I played this year, and honestly, I really liked the game. It was a very short game. I beat it under 3 hours, 100% the game even. But honestly, I think that's a good number. It didn't overstay its welcome, and it did what it wanted to do, to solve an unsolved case. Find the missing girl. The concept and presentation is honestly one of the most unique games I have ever played. The whole connecting the timeline with hashtags, finding contradictions, and pressing for more questions. It feels like a social media timeline. Like you're scrolling up and down, trying to understand people's testimony, putting them in order, what fits, what doesn't. And when you get that gotcha moment, it makes you feel like a detective. But while I do like the concept, and honestly I like this game, the gameplay is the weakest link. While organizing and puzzling stuff of who and what, sometimes you're just stuck. And you just brute force until something just clicks. I know it's more of a human thing than a game thing, but when you run out of logic and you just see wall of text, you just brute force it, because let's be honest here, no one wants to read that wall of text again. It kinda sucks because how do you fix something which is the whole point of the game? Read and deduce. Honestly, I don't know how to fix this problem because it's a problem that is in the root of the game. But for a game that is $7, if you like short sweet game while looking for a mystery to unravel, give it a try. I like what I saw and I don't regret buying it. Speaking of mystery, horror. Horror is used to enhance of finding out what happened and unraveling that mystery. To find out why a modernized or a civilized place crumbled down to rumbles because of a apocalypse, a zombified plague, or science going wrong. Please welcome our first guest and our returning guest to talk about their Game of the Year, Batnat.
Thanks for having me again, Maxim. I'd love to talk about my top game of this year, which of course is Half-Life 2, released 20 years ago. I know what you're thinking, Bat. You silly dog. Don't you think 20 years is past the cutoff line? Apparently not, because that's what we're talking about today. I finally got to try Half-Life 2, and honestly, I had such an amazing time playing. This game is really more than just a first-person shooter. It's a first-person shooter done in an incredibly fast-paced way with a physics engine that was not only groundbreaking, but also implemented into almost every aspect of the game. You wouldn't expect the act of picking up boxes to put in certain things to weigh down other objects to be such a nice inclusion in an otherwise very fast-paced first-person shooting game, but it works incredibly well. I think something that kind of gets overlooked a lot with this game is just how well the levels are designed. A lot of times they're stacked up on top of each other with many different ways to actually get from the bottom of the building to the top of the building, through the window, on the scaffolding, down the chimney, whatever it takes. They're just able to compress so much progression within isolated areas that it really gives you a mad appreciation for the level of detail that they put into these worlds. These aren't just pathways, they are once living environments that you actually get to interact with almost every aspect of. And when I say interact, I mean physically interacting with various elements to change the level landscape.
landscape. There's many times where you have to activate buttons, levers, and traps, and whatever else is needed to progress the game in a very immersive way.
It's also an extremely narrative-driven game, and it progresses this narrative in a very satisfying way. There aren't even really cutscenes in this game. Most of the stories progress through actual gameplay elements where you can mess around with things and pick up various objects while you just test different physics. I could see the argument that maybe it would be more fun to be able to skip the cutscenes so you can get to the more engaging parts of the game, but I would rebuttal with the fact that it's pretty engaging just watching the characters play the cutscenes out, even if they aren't technically cutscenes. I just liked watching the characters' emotions while they interacted with each other. It felt very dynamic and almost like I was actually in the room witnessing a conversation happening real time. And while facial animations is nothing new today, having them this detailed way back in 2004 is pretty dang impressive. And story progression isn't the only exciting thing about this game. There are plenty of opportunities this game takes to break you out of that first-person formula to throw some other kind of exciting, almost side game or diversion your way, and I think that's rad. Two things that you can't sleep on is the motorboat section, as well as the ability to use a gravity gun to interact with objects from a far distance.
One of the coolest things is making impromptu weapons through the gravity gun. Not only is slicing zombies by shooting a large razor blade at them satisfying, but sometimes it's also necessary to maintain your ammo count.
What's kind of topical about this game is that it recently had its 20th year anniversary, and with that, you can now get both of the Half-Life 2 episodes as one bundle just by buying the one game over on Steam. So if you haven't tried it yet, how else can I convince you? The last thing I want to mention is that the base shooting feels really nice, and that shouldn't be surprising if you've played any of the Valve first-person shooting games. Similar to Counter-Strike or Team Fortress 2, the shooting just feels snappy, responsive, and gratifying. Mixing that with the fast-paced movement really allows you to progress this game at any speed that you want, which I think is just rad.
What also pairs nicely with the speed is the heavy influence of resource management. Making sure that you're saving your pistol or shotgun ammo for the most important times adds a level of intensity that is only amplified by the speed at which you play the game. Not only do you gotta go fast because it's fun, but you gotta go fast because you gotta go fast. You need to get the next ammo, you need to get the health packets, you need to progress through the level before the zombies eat you. And the zombies start off pretty simple, but they quickly start ramping up difficulty as you get through the game. These guys that have a bunch of the babies on top of them and start throwing them at you, and they do like all your health in one hit, screw those guys. This game doesn't waste your time, it doesn't give you nonsense, it's a fast-paced blast from beginning to end. And you should definitely try it, especially given its 20th anniversary, because we got to see Gabe Newell once again, and that's always an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Patnat. Half-Life franchise is something I never really got into. This is mainly because I'm actually a bit scared that I would be anticipating for something that will never come out, Half-Life 3, and I would just feel an emptiness in my heart. I only feel that with Silksong, and well, now you do too. But there is a trilogy that I have finished this year, and some of you may know, but I have a love-hate relationship with this franchise. Xenoblade Chronicles is a franchise I never thought I would dabble in. I say I have a love-hate relationship because, spoiler alert, I love this franchise, and I understood when playing them, wow, what an experience. But each game is 60 hours long to finish, give or take, and that is a commitment to endure, especially for someone who wants to play so many other games. This is also why I put the finish this year rule this time. This took me months to finish the game because I had other games to also get into. And while I did also have other games finished between the 2 years, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 pivoted my decision. I already talked about the game in my other YouTube video, so I won't ramble on too much here, but essentially Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is my favorite one so far. I really like the first one with the definitive edition remake, and while controversial, I overly thought Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was better than 1. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 fixed a lot of problems I had with 2 and improved on it. The resting system is still here, the gacha is gone, the sexualization is gone. In fact, if anything, I think they have balanced the characters in both gender, awesome, humane, and, shall we say, hot. Take him out. The music is so beautiful, the story is so well done, and the new fighting system is so cool. How you can swap classes with any characters once you hit a certain criteria, and how you can change characters in the middle of the battle is something I desperately wanted in other Xenoblade Chronicles game. And how cool the mech bonds are. However, the battle system, while fun, got so repetitive when monsters just keeps fighting you again and again and again every 10 seconds you walked. And how the presentation of the game, while I find them beautiful, I think Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and 2 did it better. But if you want to play Xenoblade Chronicles 3, well, first you need to play Xenoblade Chronicles at 1 and 2. Well, not really you need to play, but it is very good idea to play it so that you can appreciate the 3 more. But as a standalone itself as well, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a phenomenal game, and I highly recommend it. 60 hours is a commitment, so let's settle down, let's relax. Actually, you know what? For the next game, you might want to have a drink. Tavern Talk is a visual novel where you are a tavern barkeep who has his charms and magical means to make drinks that increases one stats. This is pretty much taken from D&D character sheet. Strength, dexterity, aka how acrobatic and how precise your range shots are, constitution, aka boosting health means, intelligence, and wisdom. And while the drinks decides what characters will branch off and set their mind to, the main focal point of this game is character interactions. I really like how each character interact and synergies with each other. Some you wouldn't even expect them to, but the world is built in different means. Like how the charming yet naive vampire always pokes around with hard-headed and pessimistic dwarf. Or how an edgy solo rogue been forced to take care of energetic and my favorite character, small detective cat. I love the energy they vibrate when you talk to them, and you can feel sets of stories they are willing to tell and explore all in your humble tavern. It feels cozy in its own unique way. The thing is, that is the game's best selling point. The presentation is also blooming in its own way, but other than the characters, some of the background changes is not as fluent as I would like it to be. And also seeing only one side of the tavern while they talk, yeah, I get it, but seeing other rooms or heck, other tables they might prefer to sit around would give the change of variable scenarios to explore on. I wouldn't call what we currently have dull or repetitive, but I would call this a missed opportunity. Maybe making more sprites and or artwork would be more of a hassle to deal with, but it is a thing that would be nice. And, well, there's not a lot of drinks in this game. I won't spoil how many you'll get at the end, but in the beginning you start with 5, and I think that's a bit low. I think you should probably start with 10, maybe 15 with this one. I don't even care if there's different stats or if it is the same. Just give us a flavor text. Like, for example, a wisdom drink could be calm and minty, but you could have an alternative version where it's energetic or spicy or something. Just give us the same stats with different texture, for example. I might be asking too much for a comfy indie game, but at the same time, making the same drink over and over and over again, especially dexterity drink, you just want something else. Like, they do add new recipes in decent time of the gameplay, but I want more variables. Like, imagine giving spicy wisdom drink to a calm character and they go like, oh my, I won't be able to sleep with all these ideas in my head. only a text or two before continuing to the main story. But man, that would be so fun to see. With that said, this is just me nitpicking here, because I love this game so much. You can tell there's labor of love put into this, and I am so happy that I got to experience this craftsmanship. If you like visual novels, drinking making game, being a barkeeper kind of game, Tavern Talk is a great game to dive into. Just know that while the story is such a blast to get into, everything else is decent, but not as amazing as the story, in my opinion. You know, a lot of my friends said that if they ever get into a fantasy world, they want to be a tavern owner. And I have seen a lot of TikToks and other sorts of videos where people roleplay as a tavern owner, how they interact with adventurers who are having a bad day, how they give quests, how they give meals and drinks, how they become a tavern owner. Personally speaking, I want to be an adventurer. How I set forth, going around the world, seeing ins and outs. How I tell my story as the whole bar screams and shouts as they listen. How brave I was facing my fear. But if I wanted to retire, if I could not be an adventurer for some reason, I wouldn't be a tavern owner. Instead, I would sell the adventurers a bottle or two. Again, already talked about this game, so won't go too much in this video. But potion making games is basically my farming games. I never really got into farming games as much as I would love to. Nothing against it, it just didn't click with me. Potion making games did. Something about gathering ingredients, making potions and selling and using said potion. It just felt like I wanted more. Potionomics is such an itch scratcher because it takes a lot of things I love. Potion making, ingredients and networking resources, selling potions and more. I really like the presentation and the card building part of the game as well. Selling with the right cards and making sure you don't have what we call in TCG, a dead hand is a strategy in of itself. And of course, making sure the ratio of the potion making to make sure the recipe is followed while exploring what each ingredient can provide is always a challenge to invest in. But why I do like the characters' interaction, building relationship with characters, romantically or platonically, it does feel like a nothing burger when you reach the max stats of each character, especially with your special someone you picked. Yes, you do get their coupons, and the side story is charming, but it does need more, sadly. And quality life in this game is not that great when traveling. The UI to traveling from one point to another takes forever to load from one place to another, and that builds up time when you're exploring, buying, moving place to place. And trust me, in this game, you need to move from place to place to build better shop and potions. Still, Potionomics is not a bad game. In fact, I love it and I honestly want to get back into it when I have the opportunity to do so. If you like potion making games and selling said potions, give this game a try. While it has flaws, it's still a fun game. Already we talked a lot of positive in this video. So let's go to the other side and talk about the negative. Let's start off this one game. One game I really wanted to like, but I just couldn't, even if others did. I'm going to get so many backlash for this, aren't I? This is a weird situation to be with this game because, well, I actually like SIFU as a concept. I want more of it as a story. Heck, I enjoy watching the secret episode of when SIFU got its dedicated episode. But the game has its flaws, and unfortunately, the flaws weighs heavier than the strength. The only one I can tell with little to no weaknesses is the presentation. I really like the art choices they went with this game. I do wish they went a bit more polygamy than what we got, especially in the face department, but it is a creative choice that I'm going to be respectful here, because it just doesn't look bad. In fact, the characters look good. And the music, man, I love the music. It has that whole kung fu styles we hear in those other movies and games, but it keeps its own. It keeps its originality as SIFU music. Hovey Lee did a fantastic job of making the music feel cultured not only in kung fu but in Chinese history, and yet still making it original. Lastly, the world building in this game is so humane. Like, you can tell that the way you explore and such, people live here, interact with the location, and how places you shouldn't see is surprisingly more tame than you would usually imagine. Which you would think otherwise, but that is the unexpected of reality. And I like how well they researched and presented these areas. Yes, there are some places that even I can't believe it can be a thing. Like a hidden dojo inside a dance party that just happened to have lots of flames. Look, I know this game focuses on chi and whatnot, but come on, there's a limit in that. Speaking of which, I really like the chi presented with each character, especially the main character, how the character ages every time you die. This game is about revenge and the consequences you will have to bear because of your action and your chi. Except they don't really tap into this properly, in my opinion. This is where I'm gonna be a bit spoilerly. To be vague, I think they did not execute the tunnel vision and your consequence properly, in my opinion. If you want to skip, here's the timestamp. For the rest, hear me out. There wasn't any moment in the game where if you killed someone, there was no like, okay, I killed someone. Okay, I killed someone. Next. Instead, you get the moment you kill someone and you get a time skip of them just practicing kung fu or drinking tea or praying or whatnot in the afternoon or evening. Yes, after the final boss, you do get the, oh, this is the consequence of your action. Was it really worth it? But not any time in between. Yes, human emotion is complex. And I will not say that time skip is detrimental, quite the opposite. But besides the billboard pinning your foe's location to actually going there and fighting everyone who got into your goddamn way, there's no tunnel vision in the cutscenes or anything. There's just revenge, next, revenge, next. As I was writing the script, a thought just hit me. Maybe the whole point was because it's so tunnel vision that they didn't just have time to think. Our character never thought about their consequences and just moved on to next. But I don't know. As a storytelling, it still felt incomplete for me. The gameplay is a pretty hit or miss for me as well. I really do like the structure of fighting and knowing when to attack versus dodge. Having different foes fight is so fun and bearable that understanding how to fight is pretty swell. Two problems. One, the flow of attacking and defending is, well, stiff. I play the game in the controller, and when I wanted to defend an incoming attack, sometimes it would just not register. From what I understand, it might be because I was in the end of an attacking frame. So if my punch is coming back, the game still thinks I am still attacking, making my defend button unable to be registered. Which is, as someone who has done martial arts a little bit only for a year or so, not exactly how it works. But because that's how it works in the game, you could die a lot because of it. And that is pretty frustrating. And 2, if you don't have a weapon, you will have a bad time. I do like how versatile your weapon choices are. Bottles, knife, forearms, and I love fighting barehanded as well. It's just so frustrating when you're fighting barehanded and you do little to no damage, while the recoil is so minimum that you will be punished and you cannot attack or dodge in time. You have to wait forever for the enemy to do a certain move and then attack them for a fraction of a damage and then rinse and repeat until you can finally do your finisher on them. There's this room where you're stuck in the middle and the enemies are just approaching you in the middle and you have limited weapons and you fight with those weapons, you fight and you kill them, and then you run out of those weapons and you have to fight with your bare hand. And let me tell you, it takes forever just to beat them because you're fighting them. Oh, you fight them too rustly, now you're hit and half of your health is just gone. And you can't escape the room because you have to defeat all the enemies before the door even opens. For those who have played the game, yes, it is the water circle room. This is like the equivalent of you playing Dark Souls. You are just barehanded, and even if you attack them at idle animation, they'll immediately just bash you and kill you with no reaction to react. This is not flowing with the martial arts or anything. This is a pure calculation, and I really wanna like SIFU. I really do. But with a stiff gameplay and, in my opinion, incomplete storytelling, I just can't. Maybe I'm asking something unreasonable for a difficult base game, but I could not tap into the flow, or what little of it, in this game. It wasn't a fun time. And before you ask, yes, I have beat the game. Still couldn't. I'm sorry. I might have lost a respect or two from you people, so let's bring it up again. And let's talk about the same premise, fighting to the top. But let's make it platformer. And let's make it roguelike. Honestly, I'm actually surprised it took me this long to find this kind of game. A roguelike platforming fighting game. And it works so incredibly well. The attacking feels smooth yet impactful. The dodging feels fluid and yet cannot be abused. Though I will say the iframe should be a bit more. I digress. And the weapons you fight with, man, they all feel different from each other. So I don't know how to criticize this game properly because it is a platform fighting roguelike. So instead, I'll talk about how the game flows to me, at least in my opinion. And I'm happy to say, the game flows pretty well. See, I really like the weapons and how there's a variant version of each. While one might have multiple fists into 2 giant ones, or 2-handed blades into a giant boomerang hand blades. That weapon is my favorite, by the way. And the combos you can do while having to do normal attacks, specials, air attacks and whatnot makes you try and go for speed, while being careful not to get hit, otherwise the combo is broken. And the game encourages you to go for bigger combo. As bigger you have, the more you can spend getting better abilities in between each scroll. Well, each stages after beating the boss pretty much. And the spirit animals are pretty basic elemental stuff, but also not. Yes, there's fire, water, and electricity, but there's also things like, you do more damage attacking from behind, and if you throw enemies to the wall, you do more damage. And you can play around how platforming fighting works to use it to your advantage, and man, that's cool. You can also unlock some permanent abilities via each spirit guardians. Unlocking enough will grant you their mask, giving you special benefits from it. I will say I do wish there were more places where I can fight platforming, but off the cliff stuff, you can only do that in the secret rift room. I get why it would be easier to just throw the enemy off the cliff, but having some stages every now and then would be nice. And finally, I did play the game with the controller, but I felt my thumb burning after a bit because I had to move with the analog stick so much because of positioning and attacking. Might just be a me thing, but be aware. Other than that, the presentation is pretty decent, everything looks nice, and honestly, no complaints. And the story is there, nothing to brag about, but it's clear it's not a focal point of the game, and honestly, that's perfectly fine. If I have some more complaints, unlocking stuff can be a bit annoying, especially since the game isn't too hard to beat compared to other roguelike games. I think I still have 20-30% of things to still unlock, but that requires a lot of grinding. And this game has no multiplayer, which is more of a selfish thing to say, but man, imagine the possibility of messing around with your friends doing some wombo combos and whatnot. But still, if you like fighting platform games and want to get into the indie franchise, or just like roguelikes in general, give this game a shot. It's fine, it's cool, and I can't wait to see more from the devs. Alright, let's go for a quick lightning round before talking about the last non-2024 game. Ready? Celeste 64, a quick game jam game made by the devs of, Celeste. 3D platforming for a short and sweet game. It was fun, even if it was for an hour. Rock climbing. It is those infuriating games like getting over it, jump kings, etc. Not my thing. Maybe for you? Window kill is such a cool concept of having multiple windows moving around using both in and outs of the game to survive as long as possible. Fun. Wizard with a gun heavily reminds me of Don't Starve Together. Can be played with your friends. It just didn't click with me, but from what I saw and played, it was good. Titanfall 2, an amazing mech palette game, and the single player campaign was so far amazing. I say so far because I haven't beaten the game yet. Power Beats VR, a VR fitness game where you can use your own custom music to, work out. It's fun. Something is missing, but I can't put my finger as to what. Metal Hellsinger is amazing. Rhythm Suda that reminds me of Doom in a badass amazing way. Honestly, try it. The VR version, while decent, original port is better. And finally, Freedom Planets 2, a great sequel to the original. I really wish they expanded the story mode for each character a lot better than what we got, because playing 4 different characters with the same scenario, with the same story, it was obvious it was made for one particular character is annoying. Whew, that was a lot. As I'm catching my breath, I would appreciate if you guys like, comment, and subscribe, as it would mean the world to me. And it would just make me go one step closer to making this my dream job. Alright, let's talk about one more non-2024 game. And let's just say, let it cook. Safe Brigade is a battle cooking tournament where you kill monsters to get ingredients, cook those ingredients, and make better deaths than your opponent. It sounds chaotic, but honestly, it's really well planned game. Well, cooking and fighting is separated in different areas, and the chaotic part would be time management. It's a risk and reward thing. Well, do you want to spend more time collecting more ingredients or spend time cooking to plan how you want to sort food's element? The story is pretty tame. Nothing wrong with it, but the whole world building doesn't feel like this guy hates you or this is a serious dark moment. I mean, there are serious moments, but the story is more encouraging each other than rivalry? I think that's the best way to describe the game. Which, again, nothing wrong with it, but keep in mind that the story doesn't dive into drama as much as, say, typical other games would. Finally, the presentation. It's pretty solid. It's a 2D platforming, and I will say attacking and dodging could have been more, shall we say, flexible for what we got, but not much to complain. Music is pretty fun to vibe with. They are serious, fun, calm, energetic, moments that fit the aura of the situation you are endorsed in. The composer did a great job executing these music. Overall, I love this game. It's a simple concept, but very well executed. If you like cooking tournament, but also like time management of fighting and cooking, try this game. Alright, I have talked about all the non-2024 games I wanted to present for this video. And so, it is time. I'm going to be honest. I was really scared that I was not going to be playing any older games because a lot of new games were coming out time and time again. But as we have seen in this video, I have played a lot and I am very happy that I'm still trying out old games. Slowly, but surely. But there's only one that can win this award. So, ladies and gentlemen, the best non-2024 game goes to man, what a trilogy. Honestly speaking, it was a very close contender for this one. A lot of non-2024 games were amazing in its own way. However, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 had a message, fixed a lot of things I had problems with the previous two games, and improved in a lot of corners. Yes, I found the battle repetitive when you had to fight over and over, especially at the end point of the game. But given the class changes you can dabble with, play all 6 characters at once in the middle of a battle, exploring the story and seeing the ending and realizing what an incredible thing we experienced, it reminds me why I love this franchise. And despite I joke about dreading to play the next one, I am still looking forward to it. Yes, when I look at these games, when I look at these trilogies and such, I do my utmost best to separate them and make sure that it doesn't affect it. But as a standalone game itself, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is still an amazing game. It did a lot of things right, and it is a game I won't be forgetting for a long time. Congratulations to Monolith Soft for winning Best Game Non-2024. You deserve it. I'm going to put this down because I have nobody to give it to. This is an empty room after all. Only me. Alright, we talked about all the non-2024 games. So now we can fully focus on 2024 games. And let's start it off as we go on an adventure with a giant flying ship. Again, already made a video about it, so I'm going to keep this short. When the game was released, I was obsessed with it. I love how, even though it's cheesy, the fairy tale of I am a hero, therefore I win, song and dance they entail us makes me feel like a little kid pretending to be that hero. But in this case, you are the hero. And oh, it makes it so better. The gameplay where you can not only play as Captain aka Gran or Giza, but other characters in your team and people you fought with. Charlotta, a small yet big heart for justice and chivalry, her massive great sword to back up her words. Who is also my main in the game. Nalmaya, how at times clumsy and sleepyhead, but like butterflies, how elegant, powerful and just awe-dropping to see her use slash and move around the battle. And so many characters I still haven't tapped into, and I cannot wait to try them when the opportunity arises. I love the battle system, how each character can have modifications to make them better at attack, survivability, both or even extreme with one another. How each characters have their own elements that has their strength and weakness against other bosses or creatures. How synergy between each team just works, and how each boss you fight, even as you fail, you stand up, try again, and just say, alright, again. This game still has its flaws though. You cannot play story mode with your friends, which generally sucks because everything else is multiplayer. How, while there is no premium currency, aka spend extra IRL money, gacha pull is still a thing. And some mods, while not necessary, you kinda want it because they make you so powerful. And while you can play with an AI companions, which is pretty good by itself mind you, the game is more multiplayer focused and it's past its prime sadly. Not many are playing this game as I would like them to, which sucks. Still, if you want a cool unique game, a Monster Hunter but anime vibe, and or have 1 or 3 more friends who want to try something new, absolutely give this game a try. It is a rare, beautiful gem. Yeah, I'm kind of obsessed with it, but you know what? I don't regret it. Speaking of obsession, I have heard a certain game got really popular last year, and it only costs you mere productivity. With that said, pick a card. You know how people are like, oh, if X is so good, why is there no X2? Balatro! Balatro is poker too! And it was a mistake! An amazing mistake, but a mistake! Balatro's gameplay is simple. You draw cards from your deck, pick cards up to 5 to make a type of hand, earn points, and win the game before you run out of hands to play, or before you deck out. What makes this game so addictive is the jokers and the buffs you can have during each runs. Like, gives you multi-score based on what kind of hands you have, or you can repeat cards once more time, etc, etc. It's about funny poker game, making funny poker hand, and seeing funny numbers go up. And people love it, myself included. It's difficult to explain why we like Balatro because it's one of those games where you have to play it to know it. Yes, I could go explaining the poker hand or scoring system works, yada yada yada, but 1, we don't have time for that in this video. And 2, I think you would lose the charm if I go and just explain every nook and cranny of this game. So I will explain it in this way. What's somebody who played Balatro? Not an absolute min-maxing person, just a Let's Player trying it for the first time or something. If it interests you, even for a bit, try the game for yourself. It is $50 on Steam, but there are other ports like mobile and Nintendo Switch. And see if you like it. I wish I could describe it better, but it is more of a you should play it to know it. Maybe watch a gameplay or two at the very beginning, not absolute pros because that's a whole nother section. Balatro is amazing with only 4 music tracks, amazing satisfying sound effects and great presentation. Man, I love this game. You know what? We'll just rip off the band-aids. There is one more game that sucks your whole productivity out. And I'm gonna say this now. If you don't have time for Balatro, you definitely don't have time for this one. A certain YouTuber, CDogVA, emphasizes that Satisfactory is gonna be your new 9-to-5 job type of game. And when I heard that for the first time, I was like, a funny British YouTuber finally thinks he found a 9-to-5 job. And then I played the game with one of my friends. This is a public apology to CDogVA. Connor, you were absolutely right. Satisfactory is a game where you basically manage and make large-scale factories. You start with finding some ores, mining that said ores, making ingots, and then using that ingots to make better tools and resources. Sounds simple, right? After that, you can make a mining and smiting factory. For that, you need to make enough resources like iron plates and portable miners, which also needs its own resources. Also, those factories need to be powered. So for now, you need to collect leaves and crush them to generate electricity. After smiting, you can make a constructor to construct iron plates or other stuff like wires, which you need copper ores, which need to mean you need to smite them to make copper ingots that will make wires, which can also make cables so that you can make power lines. Don't forget you need to research and send stuff, and that is less than 1% of the game. That is less than 1% of the game. There is so much you have to do in this game. They would take forever to explain what to do. But man, is it fun in its own twisted way. I played this game with a friend of mine, and we got obsessed with Satisfactory. We played on a regular basis, and when we closed the game to get back to life, we just wanted to get sucked back into it and just play Satisfactory again. We were having withdrawal symptoms in mere 5 minutes. Because the game does so many things right. Making factories, seeing the factory make stuff, and seeing the result of your constructions and factories working. It's funny numbers going up, but when multiple numbers in multiple factories, we are setting up numbers going up. Yes, there's flaws in this game. For example, some of the resource gathering and such makes no sense. For example, the nuclear power plant and the resource behind it, it takes so many steps, so many procedures that it's honestly not worth your time, in my opinion. There's also the whole aligning thing that sometimes doesn't work when you align something, but when you put a conveyor belt or something like that, it doesn't work because it's either too steep or too high or whatever. So it's a bit wonky at times. And then there's few minors more, but the one I want to talk about, which is the biggest one and the double-edged sword, is time management. My friend and I started this game together, and my friend had the save file. So they had the save file, I just hopped in whenever I can. Yes, my friend did some like production and resource research and everything without me, but then there was also times where they just left for like 2 hours or 3 hours AFK, and I did it, I hopped in and I did research. So we pretty much balance each other out when it comes to productivity, let's just say. My friend also left the game so that the whole productivity and factories can just work without us doing anything. The total playtime for me was around 48 hours. My friend was 110 hours. I'm saying this because if I did not play with my friend, and if my friend did not play with me, we wouldn't ever finish this game. Period. Because there's so much things to do that doing it solo would be a pain. It's so bad that we usually had 6-hour session per day just playing this game over and over and over, and we did not care about if we were sitting our ass that long for it. You get hooked into making and making and making because we wanted to see those funny numbers go up. There was this time where we both did not have gaming session with each other, and we basically had to do with work and such, but my friend was like, hey, I only have 20 minutes before I have to get back to live, blah, 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 blah. But there's something I want to show, come along, I want to show you this. I was like, okay, yeah. I hopped in Satisfactory, they showed me that, and I was very cool, like, wow. And then we just stopped. We just became quiet and we just played. And for 5 minutes, we was like, okay, what are we doing? Okay, this is productivity. And my friend just snapped out. I was like, oh God, I need to go. I need to go. We can't play this today. This game almost sucked us in and just removed all our time schedule. It's hilarious, but my God, isn't that a warning? I love this game. And I beat the game with my friend because it was the only game we played together until the very end. We also immediately uninstalled the game because we cannot torture ourselves with this game again from the very beginning. We both agree that if we ever play this game again, it would either be like a YouTube or Twitch challenge, like we play until the game is over or whatever, or if a new DLC and or expansion comes for this game. I hope it never does, because as much as I love it, as much as it was a great experience, I am scared to play this game again. If you do not have time for Balatro, you definitely don't have time for Satisfactory. It is a 9-to-5 job game, and your productivity will just vanish. Otherwise, if you want to play it, I warned you. This is your problem now. Man, what a scary experience. Speaking of scary, the next game is pretty scary. And you know what? Let's have our guests say about it. So, please welcome our first time appearing guest for Weirdo Award, Lumkins.
2024 has been an excellent year for games. From massive franchise sequels like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth to smaller, more experimental narrative experiences like Mouthwashing, there are plenty of games that I would consider for my personal favorites this year. Still, my choice for Game of the Year is one I never expected would win, and that's Bloober Team's Silent Hill 2 remake. I'm not gonna lie, when this game was announced, I was ready to hate on it. Given Bloober Team and Konami's track records, I was certain that they would miss the point of what made the original Silent Hill 2 such a memorable title. Thankfully, I was wrong. Bloober Team remained mostly faithful to the PS2 classic. The story still follows James Sunderland as he wanders the foggy streets of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his late wife Mary. He meets the same cast of characters from the original, and while the script shockingly remains the same for most of their encounters, each of the new actors brings with them a new interpretation of the character. Luke Roberts does an outstanding job as James, offering an emotionally rich performance worthy of awards. The rest of the cast feel a little more grounded in reality than in the original game, while not completely losing the awkward, dreamlike quality that lingers within every conversation. The story retains most of the original cutscenes, with only a few small moments being lost to the remake. A few additional scenes have also been added, including one with James and Maria in Heaven's Night, which contains some new moments with James that recontextualizes his struggle in some really subtle ways. Beyond new scenes, the game's locations have also been heavily expanded. There are new places to explore and puzzles to solve. Every area has new sub-stories that may or may not tie into James's struggle, and the town itself seems more alive than ever as storms occasionally move in, filling the streets with monsters and cueing James to flee to his next location. The game itself is gorgeous. Every single area has an impressive level of detail, whether it's a derelict record shop or someone's abandoned apartment. There's also a ton of environmental storytelling that the game doesn't linger on, but more attentive players will find themselves admiring the scenery as they make their way from room to room. Shifting from the foggy streets to the tapestry lane otherworld is more noticeable than ever. James's nightmare feels so depressingly damp and dingy. Even the monsters are delightfully grotesque. The nurses' heads are squishier than ever, and the lying figures become increasingly disgusting looking as they throw up bile at the player. Speaking of monsters, the remake's combat feels very different from the original. James is a lot more capable now, being able to freely aim his weapons with the new over-the-shoulder camera style. On top of that, there's a new dodge mechanic that players can use. Thankfully, this doesn't make James feel too powerful or competent, as enemies are also faster and more vicious than in the original. I played on normal difficulty, and every encounter felt like it had some weight to it. Even when I had plenty of ammo and could blast my way through areas, the game made sure I never found myself too comfortable with my surroundings. Boss battles in particular felt better than ever. Each fight has a new twist to it not seen in the original. In particular, the abstract daddy fight was incredibly well done, adding a lot more context to its already unnerving narrative that really kept me on edge. There's even a kind of new mini-boss late in the game that came as a complete surprise to me. Aside from combat, I also played the game on normal riddle difficulty, and I'm happy to say that the puzzles, while mostly very different from the original, are still as fun and engaging as ever. There were a few that genuinely made me stop and think, though none of them ever took me more than a few minutes to suss out and complete. If I did have something negative to say about the game, it would be that while most of the areas were greatly improved by being expanded upon, there was a section later in the game that felt needlessly long with no clear signs of progression as I continued my way through narrow hallways and twisting corridors. Worse, it all culminated with some combat rooms that felt grossly out of place with this kind of game. Thankfully, this was the only section that made me feel this way, as literally every other area was well thought out in its design and pacing. My only other complaint would be the game's performance. Regardless of whether you play this game on a PS5 or a high-end PC like I did, it's going to stutter. A lot. While it wasn't enough to take me out of the experience, it was annoying to constantly have the game hitch when I was exploring the streets or making my way up and down staircases. Hopefully a patch fixes this issue soon. With all that said, Silent Hill 2 is my personal game of the year. It took my expectations and blew them out of the water. Bloober Team could have played it safe with a strictly faithful remake, especially given people's feedback on some of their more recent creative decisions, but instead they chose to rework and reimagine a classic with brilliant success.
Thank you, Lumkins. Man, Silent Hill 2 is a scary game, unraveling mystery and finding things out. But if a mature man is not your particular taste as a protagonist, how about a cute anime girl? Already talked about this in another video, so gonna keep this short. Chrono Ark is a roguelike card building game. You get 2, later 4 party members you need to reach the end and beat the game. Except you only scratch the surface. I can't really say much because the story is so amazing that you need to play the game yourself to sink in what a masterpiece this is. You know those moments where people say, indie games have changed my life and how I look into this? Chrono Ark is probably top 1 in my list. It has changed how I think about life so hard. I wish I could tell you about this, but spoilers. The presentation is pretty solid. I might be the only one, but it heavily made me think of Danganronpa, how sound effects are played, the unfolding of each world, etc. etc. The music can be a hit or miss though. I do like them, some could be better. And finally, the gameplay is pretty solid. You have limited mana, each card costs certain amount of mana. Your goal is to kill the enemies while they do little to no damage to your team. I do like how each character has their own innate abilities and cards that you can experiment with. I will say some of the characters are better than others, but overall, the character's synergy is decent to explore. Plus, with leveling system between fights, figuring out how to optimize your fighting is a brain tinker that I'm happy to indulge. And I think that's how far I'm going to be saying about this game without pushing it. If you like card building game, if you like roguelike, I would say absolutely try this game. It's really, really great. It's really, really fun. And it's a really life-changing way. I mean, it changed how I look at life. Times like this where it sucks to be a spoiler-free gaming channel. But maybe you want something else. Maybe you want the horror, but more gory, more Metroidvania. And I hope you don't mind, more futuristic. Slight go warning. I'll try to edit as much of it as I can, but skip to here if you need be. Metroidvania game is something I try to get into a lot of times. The last time I actually got hooked into one was Hollow Knight, and to get the taste of that masterpiece again has been difficult, especially since Silksong is still not a thing as of recording this video. So finding a game that scratches that itch has been difficult. 9 Souls scratches that itch. The premise is simple. Kill every leader who runs this place as revenge. Oh yeah, it's pretty hardcore. There's a bit more, especially all the side stories tangled together with the main story. But the story is about revenge, guilt, and forgiveness. And it's such a wonderful story. It doesn't do anything special, but letting the story reveal information about why we are here to begin with is entertaining. And quite frankly, the ending made me tear up how everything ended and how everything will continue. The presentation supports this so much. I really like the characters having their own story and lore to explore, and how everything sets in stone at the very end. And the world that it's set in, according to Wikipedia, an Asian fantasy-inspired futuristic world which Red Candle Games, the developers, describes as Tyropunk, a combination of Taoism and cyberpunk. And it is wonderfully executed. How each room has their own religion and culture place, while others have their system that doesn't stop even for you. And the music, oh, the music screams it. I love the music in this game. How I wish I could have a piece of those talent for myself, because various composers in the game did fantastic job enhancing the world with their music. Which finally leads us to the gameplay. And the gameplay is difficult. The game advises you to learn all the moves, because you will have a bad time if you can't. How parrying rewards you, how when you attack and dodge, the timing needs to be precise or you will get punished, and how you will die a lot. With only counting the final boss, it took me 3 hours to beat it. But once I did, I screamed and raised my fist, knowing it was my victory, that I earned that win. Having that feeling is oh so satisfying. And man, you want more and more. I have a complaint though. Maps isn't as precise as I would like them to be, and getting lost in this game is a thing. I had to look through a walkthrough multiple times just to understand where to go next. There are a few more, but that's how much I can think of on top of my head. So, if you like Metroidvania, if you don't mind the whole GOTY stuff, and if you want a game that is polished as, if not better than Hollow Knight, Nine Souls is highly recommended. It's really, really well done. Okay, we talked about a lot of dark games in a row. Really in a row. So let's have a palette cleanser. Let's talk about something light, something bright, something like our blue hair anime girl.
Fitness boxing featuring Hatsune Miku.
I know. Hear me out. So, I have a confession. I am a Miku fan. In case you couldn't tell. So, when I heard this game is finally being localized to the English audiences, I wanted to get it for the lols for playing it on my Twitch. Little did I know the impact this little thing did. The title says it all. This game is a fitness boxing with Hatsune Miku and 3 other Vocaloid, Kakamine Rin, Kakamine Len, and Megurin Luka. I hope I didn't butcher their name. The game has 3, shall we say, gameplay to interact with. Stretches to warm up your body, exercises which your virtual instructor will guide you to a fitness boxing activity, and finally, Miku exercise. An exclusive with this game where you pick Vocaloid songs to, well, box in rhythm. Think exercise as your coach guiding you what to do and following instruction, whereas Miku exercise is pretty much a rhythm game. And there are songs that honestly are pretty popular. The Disappearance of Hatsune Miku, Vampire, and Hated... Wait, what? Hated by Life Itself? Look, I'm very happy that this song is in the game. It's one of my favorite songs of all time, but to say it in the TikTok version, this song is about wanting to unalive yourself and therefore we should live. Why the hell is this song in the game? Interesting choices aside, I do like the presentation of this game. Seeing the Vocaloids in fitness outfit and working alongside you feels a sense of kinship that you have a partner working on their own goal, right? You could also change to their default clothes, but I personally like them to have their fitness wears because it fits the vibe, you know. I will say it's pretty dead obvious that they just took one model animation and just slow and speed up the model to the beats. It's very telling when you play, for example, the Disappearance of Hatsune Miku song. And I am a bit disappointed that they didn't even bother translating the song to lyrics. Maybe at least at the bottom of the screen, but I guess they want you to focus to the rhythm boxing, so I get it. I still rather have the lyrics. Though, I do like how each Vocaloid has their own personality. I mean, yeah, they should. They're famous Vocaloids. But to see it is still pretty fun. Their voice lines are pretty limited though. But I want to get back to that later. With that said, from the most to least chatty during exercising we have Rin, then Miku, then I think Luka, and then Rin. Not 100% sure here. Actually, I'm not 100% sure if that's even true. Could very well be a placebo effect. But then again... I get it. I'm a good boy. I am a good boy. I'm doing a good job. Just let me focus. Just let me focus. Speaking of focus, the gameplay. The gameplay is simplified. A lot. See, the way the game works is that you just flicker the joint cards and it will register as a punch. Any punches. Actually, any movement. which can be disillusioned when you are playing a fast song and you punch instead of, let's say, uppercut, or how you need to crouch but the game didn't register because your movement was too smooth to do so, which can be frustrating. However, this game acknowledges that flaw and made a simple fix: auto perfect. You can set certain moves to automatically be perfected no matter if it was registered or not, early or late. Heck, you can completely disable it if you don't or can't do those certain movements. And that is such a wonderful thing to add, because the game acknowledges that their system isn't perfect, so they're giving the assist tools to alleviate that frustration out of your exercise. For example, I have movements like crouch, step back and such auto perfect, because as someone who has done martial arts when I was a teen, my movement has become a bit too smooth for the game to register it properly, which I don't know if that's a bragging right, but thanks, I guess? The game still trusts you that you still do these movements, and that's the whole point of this game. Trust. Because, yeah, you could just lie on the sofa and just flicker the Joy-Con and call it a day. But then you would be not lying only to the game, but to yourself as well. However, this game is very, very limited. Truth be told, there's not a lot of songs in this game. Only 30 as of recording this script, which you might say it's a lot, but if you play in a daily basis like I have been, no, not really. You only get 4 backgrounds: normal, gaming, whatever this is, and the lagoon. And man, I really, really wish they had given us more voice lines for each Vocaloid, because hearing the same thing over and over and over just gets numb. So this game is quite limiting in its own way. So why am I recommending this game? I have lost 5 kg because of this game. Even if the BMI is unreliable, I have gone from overweight to standard because of this game. This game works. Of course, I have done things outside as well. Not overeating, dumbbell trainings, cardio, etc, etc. Actually, maybe I've done a bit too much at times, because once I pulled a muscle, limiting my exercises for 2 weeks, and actually 1 day before recording for this video, I got overheated and got sick because I pushed my body's limit too far. Oops. And playing it portable is pretty difficult. The indicator for punching is pretty small when doing so. Still seeable, but even I got off time when playing it portable. But with all things considered, I have used Miku exercise as my daily fitness thing. I try to not over-exercise, just a daily 10 minutes, 5 minutes if I'm not feeling it, but I try to keep my body moving every day. And this game helps. And it's very easy to get into. Other fitness game I need to try to set up the VR, get into the VR hub and then play it, which would take at least 10 minutes to set up. This one, on my Switch, take out the joint cords and get ready to exercise. 5 minutes tops. Yes, this game is quite limited, and I don't know if we're gonna get any future updates, since, well, Fitness Boxing 3 came out later that year. But if you want something to maybe help you lose weight, or at least make you move your body, and or just want to work out with your favorite Vocaloid, yeah, Fitness Boxing with Hatsune Miku works, and I would recommend it. I mean, I bought the game as a joke, and look at me now. I'm taking it seriously. Speaking of taking it seriously, let's talk about the next game, which is a serious edgelord. And you know what? We have a guest for that. So, please welcome our final guest for this Weirdo Award, Evittion.
Hi there, my name is Evan Simmers, and 2024 has definitely been quite the turning point, and not just the gaming space, but also for me. This was the year that I turned 21, so drinks will be consumed. I've also been able to find ways to somewhat maintain my personal challenges, and on top of that, I've managed to gain employment for the very first time. But enough about me. What is my game of the year? Well, it just so happens that 2024 marked the year of a certain black and red hedgehog. So to celebrate the occasion and to promote the releases... So to celebrate the occasion and to promote the release of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 for movie theaters, Sega just said, you know what, screw it! Let's just get them to Shadow the Hedgehog 2! While this is technically a side game, Shadow Generations might as well be its own thing with how fun, replayable, and incredibly polished for everything it's got going for it. It provides a detailed, yet very simple story with very well animated cutscenes, fun level design in stages, and boss fights that are some of the best we've gotten in years, and most of all, the fan service for the games that Shadow has been in are proven justice. If you grew up with Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Heroes, Shadow the Hedgehog, or even Sonic 2006, the stuff that's given representation here is not only proven justice, but it's also a fitting celebration of how far the Ultimate Lifeform has come since then. There are little challenges that can be found in the white space, the central hub area of the game, and playing those challenge stages with certain criteria to further add level flavor, but more importantly, they put Shadow's new abilities to the test. Shadow's famous Chaos Control is finally given a gameplay significance, and the new Doom powers really make Shadow's gameplay stand out from the other boost style games we've gotten. You could find these little tokens throughout the game which, when obtained, can be used to unlock chests in the white space and get cool stuff such as concept art, music, and little pieces of Shadow's history. They're pretty cool to look at as a means for some behind the scenes content, something to jam out to. Oh my god, they put Final Hunt as one of the unlockable tracks, it's so good! And to see how far the Shadow has come since its debut in 2001. There are also pages containing pieces of Gerald Robotnik's diary, and it serves some nice little lore in there. But it also came in a physical format, which I recommend picking up for yourself, namely due to just having something like this in your hands. I won't spoil anything else for you, but trust me, Shadow Generations is a must-play for anybody who's grown up with the early 3D Sonic games. For $50, you're getting not just a great and fun love letter to Shadow's legacy, but it also comes with Sonic Generations, a game that came out all the way back in 2011, which also provides a fun, replayable, and incredibly polished love letter for fans. Also, the recent DLC we've gotten to promote the third Sonic movie is legendary. They actually got Keanu Reeves to voice Shadow in a Sonic game. That's something worth celebrating over. I hope that the people at Sonic Team continue to make fun, unique, and most importantly, something that's worth going back to every now and then. As I said already, 2024 is going to be remembered as a turning point in my life. So I hope to make the new year my best one yet. So with that being said, you guys enjoy 2025, and until then, I'm gonna keep playing video games.
Thank you, Evittion. It's clear that he really likes the Sonic franchise. And, let's be honest here, every one of us has their own favorite franchise. For me, it's the Ace Attorney franchise. Not only I want to play more and more Ace Attorney games, but games that is inspired by it. I could talk about Apollo Justice Trilogy, or even the Miles Edgeworth one, Ace Attorney Investigations Collection, bringing the second game localized to the English officially, making all the Ace Attorney games available to all. Or maybe even Murders of the Yangtze River, I might be butchering that, an indie game I was really hyped for, and then I got extremely sleepy playing the game multiple times. Sorry. But with all those Ace Attorney inspired games, if there's one game I want to put on the spotlight for this video, it would be this. The reason why I picked this one is because it's very clear this one took an inspiration from Ace Attorney, and I'm always down for indie team trying to make their own twist and inspired game. In this case, instead of playing a lawyer, you play a temporary detective in this game. Long story short, you were hired as a clerk, but with twist and turn, you're now helping out involving in cases. We won't get into the story because, well, that's the whole point of unraveling it, and hinting anything might be a bit spoilery. But I will say this. You start off with a simple robbery, and then it stacks, and then it stacks, and then it stacks, and then it stacks. I will say the presentation is a hit or miss in all departments. I really like the character sprite and the personality they portray. With that said, I think sometimes the characters are, well, forced. The best way I can describe it is the character acts negative for the sake of the story, to railroad us to the next point. I mean, it is their personality, but at the same time, sometimes it doesn't feel like them, and that stinks. However, I really like the main character, giving the vibe of a rookie, someone ambitious and yet hot-headed and jumpy, and totally just a roommate with her. Totally. Which leads me to the gameplay, and again, it's a hit or miss. I really like getting testimony from everyone, and not every one of them can be deduced, and some are just telling the full truth. But also, a lot of testimonies can be contradicted with multiple evidence, only for game wanting a very specific one in a very specific testimony. I got stuck from time to time only to check the walkthrough saying, hey, your logic is right, your evidence makes sense, but we actually want this and this. And no, I'm not saying it just because. There has been multiple times where I presented one evidence, but it turns out to be another one, but my exact thought of reasoning was the exact reasoning they gave in the game. Over and over. It's frustrating. Luckily, there is no penalty system in this game, so you can make as many mistakes as you want. But I wonder if they did remove the penalty system because of this problem. And the investigation is... it's simplified via selecting which section you want to investigate, rather than having a magnifier to pinpoint you want to look into. Which, yeah, I guess it saves time, but I really like the magnifying and the pinpointing of areas you want to pick. One last thing, pressing each statement in this game is, well, useless. Other than for achievements, it's just flavor text for the game, and you won't get any new testimony added, getting new evidence added to the court record, no needing it to solidify your evidence more, which... I'm being speechless because the sad part is, I really want to like this game and I had fun with this game. It's just too simplified. I understand it want to be as cozy as it can be, but it's a crime-solving game where we solve crimes and use our thinking to solve complex situations. You can't always simplify complex situations. This game was fun, and I am happy that I got to try this game and finish, and I wish to see more games from the team soon-ish. But I don't think I can recommend this game, because as much as I like it, there's too many flaws that other might be turned off. Sorry. Let's talk about one more game before we go to the lightning round, and then the final two awards. And I saved the one game I really wanted to talk about, the best for last. Yes, Dawntrail is an expansion and not a full game and yada yada yada. But you know what? This is my award, so I pick whichever I want to pick. Dawntrail is an exciting start for Final Fantasy XIV because, without spoiling much, the last expansion, Endwalker, resolved pretty much everything in the game wanted to as a story. Think of it this way: if Endwalker Arc was the end of Final Fantasy XIV Book 1, Dawntrail would be the beginning of Final Fantasy XIV Book 2. Yes, there are some story that is continuing from the last book, but it's essentially a fresh start for the game. With that said, I can't get into it too much because, again, spoilers. So I will simplify things and keep things vague so that you have a good idea as to what to expect. There is a mixed reaction with the story in this game. This is mainly because you don't hog all the spotlight in this expansion. You're essentially someone who's helping the main character of this expansion, Wukong. And honestly, I'm personally fine with it. See, in this expansion, the spotlight isn't fully on you. Instead, it's mostly focusing on Wukong, the bodyguard and someone you're helping to get her be crowned as the new leader of Terulia. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And I'm perfectly okay doing this. In fact, I really enjoyed the story. Seeing going places, understanding the culture and the land and the traditions, and seeing how Wukong is growing as a character and how we are affecting her and yada yada. It's a really fun thing, and honestly, I don't mind being the side character and seeing others' growth. In fact, I enjoyed it, and I was really, really happy to be in the ride. As the first half of the expansion, I can't really defend the second half. The second half, you take the spotlight again, because they pulled the "now you need to save the world" card, which I guess you need that as you are the warrior of light and whatever, but not for this expansion. Don't get me wrong, I like the second half as well. Unpopular opinion, it was written decently for me to enjoy it, but how do I defend something that even I felt like it was forced railroad? At the very least, from part 1 to part 2. So yeah, it got a mixed review. Mostly negative might be a bit extreme here, but as much as I enjoyed the story, I can see why others didn't. The dungeons and such are pretty great, the bosses are fun, and the music are still amazing. The only thing left to talk about is gameplay, and well, it's a bit complicated. So I will explain it as my role as a healer. See, in every expansion we get like 2 new classes and all that, but we also get 10 new levels to level up. So each level we get like better enhancement, more health, but also we get sometimes spells or attacks to do. And that is great. The problem is the healers, all the healers class only got healing spell this expansion. And while healing is great and doing massive heal is great and all that, it sucks because we want to do damage as well. In Final Fantasy XIV, everyone has to do damage to the boss, otherwise we lose. So yeah, I understand that healing is important and everything, but give us an attack, give us DOTs, give us like massive DPS after we heal at some certain point. Give us something, because yes, healing is great, but we want to do something else more. And I'm only talking as a healer main. I have heard like there's some problems with the DPS and tank as well. Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail is alright. I had fun time playing the game, and I think, and honestly I do not regret playing it. The problem is, I see the flaws, and I see why people are complaining about it, and truth be told, for those who have played Final Fantasy XIV, it is essentially Stormblood 2. Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail, it's a fine game, it's a fine expansion. It just could have been a lot better. Alright, final lightning round before the awards. Here we go. Rabbit and Seal, an amazing indie game that basically has boss mechanics and working together or playing solo. It's like an MMORPG battle, but indie. Highly recommended. Final Fantasy 16, amazing game, and so far I'm liking it. I haven't finished it and I really want to. Animal Well, amazing game, and honestly a genuine surprise that we got this much content under 100 megabytes. Sadly, it just didn't click with me. Farewell Not, you play as a dog who's helping your human to move on. A really beautiful message and a great exploration. Again, didn't click with me sadly. Duck Detective, short, sweet and funny game about being a duck detective. It has all the detective comedy tropes, and honestly, I cannot wait for the sequel. Never. Same creator as Grace. A so beautiful and so emotional game that I find it lovely. Haven't beaten it, but I really want to. Helldivers 2 Sony happened. As much as I like to play this game, I'm not playing it until they change publisher, if able to. Warhammer 40k 2 for the Emperor! Fun, especially with your friends. Kinda sucks that the story save cannot be synced if playing together, but I digress. Princess Peach Showtime, it's fun, but man am I disappointed. Long story short, it genuinely felt like a side project game and it didn't have that full spark that it rightfully should have had. Mario and Luigi Brothership, a fun RPG that honestly, I did not expect it to come back, and I had a blast playing it. Sadly, story, gameplay and presentation didn't hit the full mark and it was always missing something. Also, screw this meaty game! Marvel Rivals, honestly I did not expect me to like this game, and honestly I'm having a blast playing it, especially with my friends. G-Salt, a steampunk Metroidvania game that looks and feels great. Did not click with me sadly. Dungeon Hinterberg, a game where a world and dungeon get merged and you become an adventurer to find out who you are and what you want to do. I like what I played. I sadly don't have time to continue playing this game. Content warning, stupid, and yet amazingly fun. If you ever want to do something annoying influence as a role-playing joke and whatnot, this game honestly fits the bill. With a hint of scary things wanting to kill you, don't worry about that. Black Myth Wukong, I had fun playing it. It is easier than other Souls-like games, but honestly, it also means this is a good game for people to get into Souls-like. I recommend it. Another Crab's Treasure, I personally prefer this Soul-like. I usually not big fan of save the earth, recycle media, but for this one, I'll allow it. Tiny Grain, making your own village and taking photos, is a shooter game that is relaxing if you want to just play something, make something, be relaxed and have a quick snack game. While we're at it, Spirit City Lo-Fi Session. Basically an app that helps you be more productive while making these kind of videos. Heck, I'm writing the script as I'm using the app. Dicefolk, roguelike game using defeated enemies into allies. It's a short game, but I like it. Nano Apostle, short boss rush game that is so fun to dive into. Made a video about it actually. Rivals of Aether 2, could be better. As someone living in South Asia, playing online is wobbly and I have never seen a fighting game with two separate pings. That feels off even though it probably shouldn't. And finally, Buckshot Roulette. Russian roulette, but with friends now. Woo! I have talked about all the games I wanted to talk about in this video. And now, there's only 2 awards to give. Let's start off with the 2024 one. I have played a lot of new games last year. And it was a difficult choice, but only one will win this award. So, ladies and gentlemen, the best game 2024 goes to Who knew cute anime girls can make a masterpiece? Chrono Ark's story is a masterpiece. The gameplay is varied and fun, and the presentation is pretty solid. Yes, there are some hiccups, but the good outweighs the bad so much. I know I had to dodge so many things when talking about this game because spoilers. So let me say this one last time. Chrono Ark has the best life-changing story I have ever experienced in my life. This game deserves more recognition. It's not every day that you hear that a roguelike has a phenomenal storytelling. And yet, this game did it. And this game proved that you can have amazing storytelling in not only any media, but any given genres. Congratulations to Alpine for winning Best Game 2024. You absolutely deserve this. Unfortunately, there is one game that outranked even you. And here we are again. When I started planning for Weirdo Award 2023, I started it around mid-July, early August. And to remember all the games I played, had to research and everything, it took time. Maybe I missed some, maybe I didn't. 2024, I started from the very beginning, January 1st. I played all the games I could. And my God, this time it was way more difficult to pick than 2023 in my opinion. So many amazing games, and yet only one can win this award. It wasn't easy, but my answer has been set. So, ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the Best Overall Game 2024 goes to a game I'm absolutely obsessed with. Some of you might have thought this was an obvious pick for me. But trust me when I say this, this was a very, very, very close fight. To simplify this, I will tally points to the 3 winners of this year's award show: Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Chrono Ark, Granblue Fantasy Relink. Let's give points for each category. 1, 2, 3. Highest points wins. Okay? Story. Granblue Fantasy Relink. Well, I did like the I am the hero story. Compared to the other 2, it is the weakest link here. Not bad, but the other 2 were better. 1 point. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 had an amazing story, an amazing final love letter sent to the trilogy, and I just really needed to process what I just witnessed when I finished the game. Unfortunately, Chrono Ark did it better. Made me rethink about life, blew my mind how deep and engaging it was. Yes, it took some time to progress each story plot, but man was it worth it. 2 and 3 points respectfully. Presentation. While Chrono Ark had great art style, music, world building, it had its hit and misses. Not to mention, it's a roguelike card building game, so I wasn't expecting much from that. And I was right. 1 point. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 had amazing graphics, amazing music, amazing presentation, though not many world was screenshot worthy compared to the last 2 games in my opinion. 2 points. Granblue Fantasy Relink makes me feel like a hero. The graphic looks gorgeous, the special ability each character has looks powerful, voice acting, world building. Man, I will be honest, I would love to live in that world. 3 points. And gameplay. Chrono Ark, while having varied teammates to explore, it is again a card building roguelike deck. And once you have a system, you have a system. Nothing wrong against it. In fact, I love because it has a system. The other 2 did things better in my opinion. 1 point. Granblue Fantasy Relink, having so many characters to explore and gameplay feels so fluid and fighting each boss is so fun. mods to make the fighters stronger, it's really good. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is better. Able to play all 6 characters at once, able to change to multiple classes and play the same class if wanted, exploring, gems, just trying new things, and the game allowing you to be near limitless. That deserves 3 points. So by this logic, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 has the most point, and that would be correct if I did not consider one more thing that all 3 had in common: replayability. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, look, I love the battle system, but fighting the monster over and over and over every 10 seconds got really repetitive, especially at the end game. It put a bad taste in my mouth. No matter how much I did like the changing characters and trying new stuff, the monster and fighting started to feel the same. 1 point. Chrono Ark, while having a system with different characters and abilities, trying new stuff and seeing what synergies with whom felt fresh even if the foes were the same. I will say that trying to get the true ending of this game did get a little repetitive at the end. Nothing to make me lose the fire, but it dimmed a bit. 2 points. Granblue Fantasy Relink. I wanted to fight more and more and more and more and more and more. Funny enough, when I was fighting the same boss to get the rare drop weapon for my character, I never felt repetitive. I was like, how many times should I teach this lesson, old man? And I wanted more and more and more and more. And when I failed, I wanted to learn, fail, learn, fail, learn. And when I succeeded, I wanted to learn again. And I didn't mind if I failed, if I could learn. And know this, I have only played with Captain and Charlotta only, knowing I have multiple other characters to explore if I ever wanted to. I can't wait to get obsessed again. 3 points. By this logic, Chrono Ark gets 7 points, Xenoblade Chronicles get 8 points, and Granblue Fantasy Relink gets 9 points. Again, I'm simplifying this a lot, and there's a lot of amazing games that I just couldn't give. Balatro, Satisfactory, 9 Souls, BlazBlue, Meta Hellsinger. There's so many games that could have won. But with heroic storytelling, amazing and beautiful presentation, and just great gameplay that I'm willing to fail and learn and learn and learn and learn to succeed. Granblue Fantasy Relink deserves this award. Congratulations, Cygames, for winning Best Overall Game 2024. You deserve this. You absolutely do. Thank you for making an amazing game. Congratulations to all the winners. If you want this award, please contact me via DM/email and we'll try to get something in touch or something. And thank you everyone for watching this Weirdo Award 2024. This took a lot of hardship and work. Please like, comment and subscribe. It would mean a world to me. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care and thank you for watching Weirdo Award 2024.